That's a nightmare. Welcome. I'll be watching that one from far. I'm so glad. Yeah, I mean, it's not just delivery, it's just getting it out, right? Yeah. When they have no water. It might be worth it. Yeah, you should. You can just stand. I don't read for ours. And so there's a mix, right? In-home use, small animal farms, big commercial. Right next to it. And so I so we've been able to make those pretty much. And so oh, I know. Well, I have some very good. No, just. I save everybody. Okay. All right, put it in the VA. Yeah. You want to put this line? That'll be my habitat. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Good. We'll send you some information. Yeah. You don't want to be. You're getting all day. All day sitting on the camera. You're out of the view shed. You're breathing.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joaquin Esquivel. I'm chair of the State Water Resources Control Board. Today is Friday, April 26th. It is 9:04 a.m. and I'd like to bring this workshop back into order. I'll begin by introducing my fellow board colleagues. With me here today shortly is Vice Chair Doreen Diadamo, Board Member Nicole Morgan, Board Member Laurel Firestone, and Board Member Sean McGuire. With us as well as our Executive Director, Eric Oppenheimer, Samantha Olson from the Office of Chief Counsel. Our Clerk of the Board is Courtney Tyler. Assisting her today is Margie Argel. And we're also joined by our program staff here as well, Diane Riddle and others. This is the time and place for a workshop, our third day now of a 3-day workshop for proposed voluntary agreements related to the Sacramento Delta updates to the water quality control plan for the San Francisco Bay, Sacramento, San Joaquin Delta Estuary, or Bay Delta plan. A few quick announcements before we get into today's discussions. For all of you here in the room, good morning. We're here in Sacramento in the California Environmental Protection Agency building. A few announcements for us. Please do observe the exits. If there happens to be an emergency, we'll calmly file out to Cesar Chavez Plaza and await further direction. Also, if you intend on commenting on the workshop today and have not signed up, please do see the clerk of the board and she can help you get signed up. Once it is your turn to speak, please indicate any affiliation, your name, any affiliation you have. And also for us here in the room, please do silence phones. For those of you joining us virtually, you're either viewing us through our customary webcasts on YouTube Live or the Cal EPA website. But if you intend on commenting on today's workshop, you need to be on the Zoom platform. There are instructions on how to do so on top of the notice for the workshop that went out March 8th. But if you're having any challenges getting onto that platform, please do just email the clerk of the board at board.clerk@waterboards.ca.gov, and she can help get you on the platform. platform. Once you're on the platform, your camera will be off. You'll be on mute until it is your turn to speak as indicated. Today is the third and final day, as I've said, in a multi-day public workshop on the proposed voluntary agreements related to the Sacramento Delta updates to the Bay Delta Plan. This workshop is being held in accordance with the notice of board workshop dated March 8th, 2024. The purpose of this workshop is for voluntary agreement parties to provide a detailed overview of the voluntary agreement proposal, receive input and answer questions from board members, and receive input from the public. Please be aware that the workshop days have the potential to run past 5 p.m. We didn't have to yesterday. We did the day prior. Today's long agenda and number of speakers probably indicates we'll be here past 5. Since we plan to hear from a large number of speakers and want to be sure to hear everyone's comments. As described in the notice, we are limiting speaking times to ensure a productive, efficient, and fair workshop. Panels will be limited to 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the specific request. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. I may need to limit speaking times further if necessary to ensure all speakers are able to speak without going late into the evening today. If you plan to make an individual comment, those comments will be taken after 2 p.m. and possibly later. We'll begin with any opening remarks that my fellow board members would like to make. We will then hear a short presentation from staff describing the format and agenda for the workshop, a brief background on the proposed voluntary agreements and Bay Delta planning process, and next steps. After the staff presentation, we'll begin sessions 5 of the workshop, followed by session 6. Each session will include an overview presentation by the voluntary agreement parties on the specific topics for that session, followed by panel presentations and board discussion. Following the final presentation from VA parties during session 6, and before we hear from our panels for that session, we'll hear closing remarks from Secretary Wade Crowfoot of the California Natural Resources Agency. Additionally, we may be taking comments from elected officials and tribal representatives at any time today to accommodate those schedules. We plan to take a short break in the morning and another break in the afternoon. We'll have about a 45-minute lunch. The state board will not take any formal action today. Rather, the board action will occur later at a notice board meeting before the board considers approval of Sacramento Delta updates to the Bay Delta Plan. There will be additional opportunities for public comment on the specific proposed changes to the Bay Delta Plan. The discussions during the workshop will help inform staff's development of draft program and implementation language for Sacramento Delta updates to the plan, and staff will provide additional information regarding these next steps in process during their presentation. The board has made no decision regarding whether to approve the proposed voluntary agreements. We're intensely listening today and are very interested in information and constructive input to help the board and its staff in efforts to develop possible draft changes to the plan, including a draft program implementation text for further public input. I just want to thank you all again for your attentiveness and for joining us these last days. Yesterday was again another good discussion, and appreciate the back and forth that we've been able to have on the proposal and continuing to be open here to ensuring that we're listening to all sides and providing a forum here and a basis for continued collaborative discussion on what is one of the top priorities of this board amongst many important priorities for sure. Looking to fellow board colleagues if they have any comment or question to kick us off here today. Board Member Firestone.
I know this is a long day, and so, but I did want to just start out because I think today is dealing with a lot of the most challenging issues and the ones that to me are also most emotional and vital to success. And I wanted to just set like a little bit of stage of how I'm coming into this, and I hope we can be coming into this. I think it's important, and I also just reflecting on a lot of the public comments we got yesterday. I think what we've learned or heard from the last few days is that we are considering the VA. That is what this board is doing. We are absolutely considering it. So suggestions that we should not even consider it, what we're doing today is considering it. And also what we are doing is not just rubber stamping it. We have spent a huge amount of time going through really deep questions and concerns, and we will continue today with some of the hardest issues to figure out how can we make this successful? How does this have a chance of meeting the best chance of meeting success here? in achieving the Bay Delta goals that we have. And I think there has been really good acknowledgement that the VA so far has been developed in a vacuum, and it hasn't included all of the expertise that it needs to make it successful. These workshops are a place where we're trying to pull out and solicit many of those views, but the workshops alone are not the only opportunity or need. I think the actions following these workshops are really key to show whether, the VAs and the folks that are rolling up their sleeves to figure out how to make this work and be successful are really listening and able to wrestle with how can we adjust to make this something that can really meet the goals of the Bay Delta plan. And also in developing working relationships with some of the expertise that we've been hearing today and that we know have been missing. And that is hard work, as we heard, and I think we've heard a lot of already good input in that. I think in order to make working relationships work, whether it's with any of these alternatives about how we achieve Bay Delta, I think all sides need to recognize we have very severe impacts occurring right now. We have salmon crisis, we have cultures that are not able to exist and practice, we have lives that are being impacted every day, and we have to take extreme change to change this trajectory. And also, extreme changes and some of the types of changes that may need to be taken are going to have very extreme impacts on communities, on livelihoods, both urban and rural areas. And if this were easy to say, let's just move a whole bunch of water to help the fish, and there weren't those really extreme impacts, this would have been done a long time ago. And what we're being tasked to do here is weigh how to balance those things. We all may disagree, and everyone here may disagree on exactly where that balance is. But it is a balance. We need to acknowledge those impacts on all sides in terms of the different alternatives. I do think the last thing I also just wanted to say is, just as we are really digging in, I think in good faith, to figure out how we could make the VA proposal and some kind of, how we could make the VA proposal successful in meeting the Bay Delta objectives, we also need that same good faith put into how we can make the backstop and the implementation plan that the water board's been developing and proposals around that successful. And I also think that there needs to be real rolling up our sleeves to figure out, okay, what is that alternative and how is that workable? Because I've heard a lot of, in-stream flows is impossible and going to ruin everything, and not rolling up sleeves to figure out how to make that work. And I think we need to, part of that is we haven't laid out the details that the VAs have in terms of wrestling with how it works. And that's the next step with the implementation plan. But I would really like to see that we're all rolling up our sleeves to figure out how can we find alternatives that will be successful in meeting this crisis? And I think the last few days have shown our ability to do that. I'm really hopeful that we can today in some of the hardest, I think, issues. And I look forward to the discussion. I didn't want to take too much time, but I wanted to set that stage in terms of how I'm coming into this. Thank you.
Thank you, board member. Looking to other board colleagues in case they'd like to make comment as well. And we'll just agree. I think, for myself, I've said we're very much reconciling a system here, both on the physical side, but also on the people side. And I think that what we need to remember is this is that transparent public forum by which to be able to be coming to consensus. And I appreciate the good faith that I know folks are coming to the table on this discussion. It isn't easy, and it isn't an either or. And so I think we're again looking to, as board members said, really bridge both the board's proposal and what's being proposed in the voluntary agreements, and recognize that we are talking about the same outcomes that we're looking for in this system. There may be disagreements on how you structure and how you approach. And again, the board hasn't made a decision. We have a year here to continue to contribute to and help ourselves synthesize how we as collectively as state and communities that sometimes have huge bridges to be made between them can move forward together. So I appreciate that, board member, and look forward to another productive day of discussion here amongst folks. Our first panel is our presentation by the VA parties. We're going to move here into what's known as session 5 of our 3-day workshop. It will be on governance and participation. It'll be a staff presentation first, apologies, and then we'll move into governance and participation. But we'll kick things over to our folks here. I believe Claudia will kick us off.
Morning. Sorry. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
And thank you.
Good morning, Chair Esquivel, Vice Chair Diadamo, and board members. My name is Claudia Buccelli, and I'm an environmental scientist in the Division of Water Rights. With me today from the division are Diane Riddle, Assistant Deputy Director, Sam Bashevkin, Environmental Program Manager, and Nicole Williamson, Environmental Program Manager. We also have Samantha Olson with the Office of Chief Counsel, and we have additional members from our team attending virtually and in the room today. Similar to yesterday, we will be providing an abbreviated presentation today to allow as much time as possible for the other presentations and board discussion, and to avoid duplication of material presented on April 24th. We will be providing a high-level overview of some slides that were presented in more detail yesterday. For staff's full presentation, please refer to the recording from April 24th, which will be posted on the board's website as an opportunity for shorter individual comments